Welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob, and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And I have with me today, I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are covering General Ledger Lesson 19, and Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction. Welcome, everybody, to this 19th lesson of our Oracle Financials Functional Training series. Today, we are going to look at the concepts of foreign currency. Now, there are three main topics, I would call them, in which we are going to look at the issue of foreign currency or where foreign currency can be applied. So we are going to look at one, conversions, and we are going to look at reporting currencies, and we are going to look at revaluation. So just as a primer introduction so that we can understand what each of these topics pertain to. Conversion, the feature of conversion helps us to enter journals in foreign currency. We have already talked about foreign currency. We have functional currency, which is the one we use in respect to the locality of the company that's using Oracle. So it's the local currency. But as we know, companies can interact with other entities outside the country. So at times they'll be required to enter journals in foreign currency. So we are going to talk about that under the topic of conversions. Reporting currencies. Reporting currencies actually are ledgers that help us to generate reports in foreign currency, because when we do reports or we do inquiries, we usually see that information in our functional currency, which we use when we are creating our primary ledger. But under reporting currencies, we are going to see how we can do reports and inquiries against these ledgers that are recorded in foreign currencies. And then we are also going to look at revaluation. In one way, revaluation is related to conversions, and it mainly deals with exchange rate fluctuations. So we have to do revaluation in order to acknowledge or to record exchange rate valuations that can take place over time, and it helps us so that we can do accurate reporting. So that's just an explanation of each of these topics. We are going to understand them much better once we look at each of them in depth. However, today we are going to start with the topic of currency conversion. So let's get right into it. So when we talk about currency conversion, we have first to go back to the issue of our functional currency. So what usually happens is we enter journals in our functional currency. In our case, our imaginary company, Maskani, the functional currency that we're using for our primary ledger is the US dollar. So we enter journals in US dollars, we post those journals, and they hit the respective balances, and we can then do reports and inquiries against those balances, and those reports and inquiries, the results come out in the functional currency, the US dollar. However, as we have said, from time to time, companies or different companies, they will interact with other entities outside the country, and as such, they will need to deal with other currencies which are not the functional currencies. For example, if they have suppliers that come from outside, are based outside the country, they will have to pay those suppliers in the in their currency that they use in their respective countries. Or if they have investments outside the country and they receive revenue from those investments, that revenue will be captured in that foreign currency. So those are the different scenarios where we might need to enter journals in foreign currency. Okay. So when we enter these journals in foreign currency, what happens is that their amounts are converted into the functional currency. So let's take an example. Maybe Maskani has purchased some supplies or some services from Kenya, and then that Kenyan company will send an invoice in Kenya shillings, which can be captured in using the account payables module, or if we don't have account payable module, we can enter a journal in general ledger. That amount will be captured in Kenya shillings. However, we will provide an exchange rate which will be used to convert that amount in Kenya shillings to the functional currency. Then when we post that journal, the balances will be updated in the functional currency, which is the US dollar. So when we do our financial reports or inquiries, we will see those amounts in the functional currency. So that is the process of currency conversion. We enter a journal in foreign currency amounts. We provide an exchange rate, okay? Then using that exchange rate, the amounts are converted into the functional currency, which in our case is the US dollar. Then the balances are updated after we post the journal, and then we can do our financial reports and inquiries in our functional currency. So that is where the issue of currency conversion comes in. So what do we need to do in order to do a currency conversion? We have already mentioned one of those things where we need an exchange rate. Okay. The other thing we need, and which we have also covered in our lessons before, is that we need to enable the required foreign currencies, and we have already seen how we can enable currencies that we can use in our ledger entries. So those are the two things that we need to do. We need to have those foreign currencies enabled, and we need to have exchange rates. Now, when we come to the issue of exchange rates, we have two main types of exchange rates. We can have a user rate and we can have daily rates. So what is the difference between these two? When you have the user rate, you enter this rate at the time of journal entry. So when you're entering your foreign currency amounts, so for example, in the case where we said that Maskani has purchased services or products from Kenya, you will enter your amounts in Kenya shillings. You will select the currency that is Kenya shillings, and then you will give an exchange rate to which those amounts will be subjected and converted to US dollars. So the user rate is entered at that point when you are entering the journal. Daily rates, on the other hand, are pre-entered before we do the journal. So all you have to do is at the time of journal entry, you will select a particular rate type, and we will look at what rate types are. And then under that rate type, there will be the effective exchange rate for that particular day. And so whatever amounts, foreign currency amounts you enter, they will be converted to the functional currency using that particular exchange rate entered for that rate type. Okay. Now, let's talk about the daily rates and rate types, which we have said are the ones which are pre-entered. So once you go to daily rates in Oracle, you can then create rate types under those daily rates. So you have the hierarchy is that you have daily rates, and then under daily rates you have different rate types. Okay. So against those rate types, you can then enter exchange rates. So in Oracle, you have certain preceded rate types, and these are corporate, spot, we have the EMU fixed, and we have the user. Now, the EMU fixed rate type and the user are special. So this user rate type is the same one that I talked about when we said that you can enter the user rate at journal entry. However, the difference is that the difference between corporate and spot and the EMU and fixed, which I said these two are special, is that even the exchange rates are, you can't enter custom exchange rates against these two rate types. So for the EMU fixed, which is the various exchange rates against which currencies of the countries that fall under the monetary union of the European Monetary Union. So each country has its own currency, and there is a fixed rate which that currency changes against the euro, which is the currency that is used in the eurozone. So those rates are fixed. So once you do a query for the rate types which are preceded in Oracle, you will see all these four, but you can only enter exchange rates against these two, the corporate and spot. You can't enter rates against EMU fixed, and you can't enter rates against user. And we will gain more clarity once we go to the system and look at all this. But let's look at what rate types look like or how they operate. So you can have many rate types depending on the needs of the client for who you are implementing Oracle General Ledger. So these two are preceded, but they're the ones we are going to use as an example. But when we are doing our own implementation in the system, we are going to create our own. But using these two, so you can have for the spot rate, this is the rate for this particular day. This is the effective rate for this particular day, which are and these rates are pre-entered by an accountant working for that particular company. And you can have this corporate. This will be the rate for the same day. So you see what I'm talking about. You have two rate types, and each rate type has its own exchange rate for that particular day. So why would you have a scenario like this? Maybe you have a group of people who you want to use this particular exchange rate, and you have another group of people working in the company who want to use this exchange rate. Maybe one department, one department such as finance department have been told to use the corporate rate type and hence this exchange rate, and then another department, maybe operations, they have been told to use this rate type, and the exchange rate for that particular day will be this. So that is why you may have different rate types under your daily rates. Okay, so when we want to create daily rates, this is the navigation, setup, currencies, rates, and types. And then once you create the rate type, then you have to go and enter the actual exchange rates against that rate type. Okay, and this is the navigation. So let's go over to the system so we can understand this more clearly. Let's close this. All right, so let's follow the navigation that we said. So setup, currencies, go to rates, and then types. Oh, my session is not valid, so I have to log in again. So let me just close this so we can see that navigation again. So setup, currencies, rates, and then types. Okay. Once you select that, this is the window that launches. So let's just do a query and see what we have. Now these are rate types that have been created by other people who are using this instance. So these are not the preceded ones. Okay, that's why you can see all these names, and that is what we are going to do ourselves. We are going to create our own rate type. But if you scroll, you can see this is one of the preceded that we talked about, and you can also see the spot, right? And you can also see the user specified, and there is also the EMU fixed. Okay, so these are the preceded. All the other ones are the ones that have been created by other users. So if we want to create our own rate type, what we need to do is just come to this window and define the rate type here. So what we are going to call our rate type, we can call it Maskani corporate. The description, we can just call it Maskani corporate rate. Okay. So once we do that, we can save our work. And that's it. So now basically what we have done is we have created like a holder or a container. So this is a rate type. Against this rate type, we have to enter exchange rates, the actual exchange numbers. Okay. So let's close this. Go back to our. So we have created this first step. Now we have to enter rates against that particular rate type. So before we enter the exchange rates, in our examples we are going to do exchange between US dollar and Kenya shilling for the examples that we are going to use in our implementation. So the other thing that we mentioned is that we have to make sure that those foreign currencies which we are going to be dealing with are enabled, right? So set up currencies, define. So we're going to query to see what currencies are enabled. Put in query mode and select enable, then control F11. So these are the currencies that are enabled. We have Canadian dollar, we have STAT, which is non-financial, and we have US dollar. So since we are going to use Kenya shilling, we have to enable the Kenya shilling currency. Okay. Find KES right there. Select enabled. Let's save our work. And we can close that, okay? So now, once we go to enter the actual numbers against our Maskani corporate rate type, we can tell the system that we are converting US dollar to Kenya shillings under this rate type, and this is the exchange rate, okay? So let's go to setup, currencies, let's go to rates, and then now instead of going to types, we go to daily. So this is the window where you enter the actual rates, the numbers themselves, okay? So how do you do that? This first field, it asks you the from currency. So we want to convert US dollar, right, to Kenya shilling, okay? This is the effective date. This is the actual date today, but I believe in our ledger we are operating the year in the same year, but we are dealing with we are in July or June. Okay, so but let's just do an example to see how we enter the rates. So we have said we are doing this from US dollar to Kenya shillings, and then here you select the rate type. Okay, so here we want to enter Maskani corporate. So I entered the first few letters and selected tab and clicked tab, and it auto-filled it. So this is the rate type against which we want to enter the exchange rate. And then now here you enter the actual rate. So USD to Kenya shillings. So we can say $1 is equal to 100 Kenya shillings. Okay, so we can enter 100. And once we do that, automatically Oracle calculates the inverse. All right, calculate the inverse of the exchange rate. So this is Kenya shillings to US dollar, while this is US dollar to Kenya shillings. So what have we done? If we save this, this is going to be the effective exchange rate when you're changing from US dollar to Kenya shillings under this rate type for this date. Okay, so if this is the effective date in your journal entry and you want to do a conversion, this is the exchange rate that Oracle is going to use. All right, now you can come here and do the same thing for a different date, and that date can have a different exchange rate, because exchange rates they fluctuate depending on the economics or whatever. However, another option that you have is to enter exchange rates using a range. All right, so we can save this. So the other option that you have is to enter rates in a range instead of just for one day. So the navigation is the same. Setup, currencies, rates daily, same window. Then you select enter by date range. All right. So this is the window that comes up. So again, you enter the from currency, then you enter the to currency, and then here you can select the start date. All right, so sorry, I'm changing the year instead of the month. So for example, if we want to enter for our journal, I believe we are operating in June now, so we can enter rates starting from 1st June, and the end date can be let's go back to June, can be 15th June. Okay, we still have to select the rate type, and these are all the rate types that are available, but the one we want to enter against is ours, Maskani. And we can say for this period of time, the exchange rate that we are going to be using is $1 is equals to maybe 100. All right, and you select and you say okay. So let's see. Hold on, I want to see whether that's saved. So let's go to in June. Select one day. Okay, Maskani. Oh, hold on. So daily. Know why this window is hanging. See what it did. It brought me all. I have to specify the range. So let's enter a date here. Select the 6th. Okay. Don't know why it's refusing to query. All right. So we entered exchange rates for Maskani rate type for a range of dates. So if we go here, we can do a query for one of those dates. All right. Say let's enter into query mode F11. Let's enter a date like the 7th of June, which falls in that date range for which we entered an exchange rate. Our rate type is Maskani. Corporate, and then let's do control F11. So you can see for all those dates we entered an exchange rate of USD to Kenya shillings as 100. The other thing you see is that we have two records. Remember, this is the one we did, USD to Kenya shillings, 100. However, when you enter your rates and you save them, Oracle automatically creates another record that's an inverse of the one that you entered. So you can do the queries in both directions, from Kenya shillings to USD, or from USD to Kenya shillings, but they are the same thing. The other thing we have seen that Oracle does automatically is it automatically calculates the inverse exchange rate. So, for example, we just entered that from USD to Kenya shillings is supposed to be 100, right? And then Oracle automatically calculated this 0.1. So we can stick with that, or we can enter our own inverse, because sometimes this won't be automatically true that USD to Kenya shillings, because it's 100. Then the changing in the opposite direction will just be the inverse. You can get a different rate. So here we can come and say maybe it's 0.12 and just save that. And well, that changed the other one. Let me use a different example. So let's enter a new record. So USD to Kenya shillings, okay? So we're going to enter this for Maskani. Change the date. Let's clear this record first. So USD KS. Let's pick a new date. 15th. So when we enter here 101, this is automatically calculated as 0.099. Okay, but we can come here and say maybe we want this to be 0.012 and just save that. Okay. So so again, just to reiterate, if we check our exchange rates for that particular date, for a date that falls within that range, then we can see it here in both ways. So now that we have entered these rates and the Kenya shilling currency is enabled in our ledger, we can then enter foreign currency journals in Kenya shillings, and then we can use this exchange rate to convert those amounts into the functional currency. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So we can go to enter journals, and then we come here and we say new journal. So let's say Maskani did some purchases. Can just call it Kenya purchases. Okay, we have a category for purchase. Yeah, we want to enter this journal in Kenya shillings. All right, so we come here and we select Kenya shillings. The date, this is the effective date for whatever exchange rate that we are going to use. So we entered a range from the 1st of June to the 15th. So let's pick a date in that range where we have entered exchange rates. Okay, so let's pick 7th June. After we pick that, then Oracle will ask us to pick a rate type. Okay, then here we can select Maskani, and automatically the rate is, just ignore this descriptive flex field. The rate is obtained from the rates that we entered in on a rate type on a daily rates window. Okay, so this is the rate that is recorded there when we are doing Kenya shillings to US dollar. However, if we select user here, then this field is opened up and we can enter the rates at this point. whatever exchange rate that we want to use. But if we select Maskani, then this rate type is selected from the ones that we entered. The other thing that happens is once you select foreign currency here, the currency that is not functional, a currency that's not functional, you see that these extra fields are added. So here you have the entered, which is the foreign currency that you're using. So for us, it's going to be Kenya shillings. And then on this end, you have what is called the accounted, which is the functional currency. Okay. So let's enter our journal. So let's say Maskani developers. Let's do an expense. Okay. Industrial plants. To default department. So let's increase our, so this we are entering in Kenya shillings. So let's say they bought something for 1,000 Kenya shillings. All right. And you can see immediately that amount is converted into US dollars according to this exchange rate. All right. Then let's enter the second line, which is, and just say cash. Let's not pay too much attention to the meaning, but the concept. And you have to balance. Okay. So you can see what happens. You do the entry in the foreign currency, and then using the exchange rate that you entered against this rate type, Oracle converts those amounts into the functional currency. All right. So once you post this journal, the balances will be updated in the functional currency because conversion has taken place. You will still be able to see a record showing that this journal was entered in Kenya shillings. It's a foreign currency journal, but because of conversion using this exchange rates that you provided, then the amounts are also converted to the functional currencies, and the balances are updated. All right. So that is how the function of conversion works. And so the other thing to remember is that you have to enter the rates for the effective date that you want to enter that journal. So if you want to enter foreign currency journals, you have to ensure that for the effective date, the exchange rates have been recorded against that particular rate type. Okay. So now something else that I wanted to cover is, so let's go to setup currencies. So you can also use this currency rates manager option. So we were doing setup currencies then rates, but you can use this currency rates manager. And what this does, it opens, instead of the Java forms that we've been using, this opens like a web page, a web page style window where you can do the same functions. So for example, if we go to currencies, currency rates manager, then rate types, this is the window that opens, and you can, this is the page that opens, let me say that, and you can search for your rate type here. See, and you can select. So this window allows you to carry out the functions that you are doing on the Java forms from a web page style window. You can create a new rate type, do everything that we did on the other page, and enter the name and the description, and then select apply. All right. You can also enter rates using this currency rates manager. So you can come here and say USD to Kenya shillings. All right, and then select Maskani. So you can see these are all the records that we have entered. Okay, against our Maskani corporate rate type. You can update. So you can say it's from USD to Kenya shillings on a particular date. That's the rate type, and you enter the rate and select apply. So these are just the same functions, but these are not being done on Java forms, but rather on this web page style window. So I think that's pretty much it on the topic of currency conversion. Unless, Bob, you have something else to add, I think that's a good place to end our lesson today.